Good morning. The news on Wake Up Nigeria. I am Mike Messikeno. President Bola Tinubu has honored the significant contributions of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, to the nation. He announced his death yesterday, expressing his heartfelt condolences to the family and the Nigerian Armed Forces. The president also postponed the Federal Executive Council meeting earlier scheduled to hold. State House correspondent Femi Akonde reports.
The death of Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja prompted President Bola Tinubu to postpone the Federal Executive Council meeting, earlier scheduled to hold in the council chambers. Ministers observed a moment of silence in honor of a gallant soldier who fought at several theaters of operations and led the troops to victory. The Ministers of Defense and Information conveyed President Bola Tinubu's condolence to the bereaved family, the army, and Nigerians. They also acknowledged that Lieutenant General Lagbaja instilled discipline in the army and inspired followership.
He was a gallant officer, very, very hardworking. He was indeed a warrior.
All we can say is to God to bless the family, and we assure Nigerians that we will continue praying for the demise of Lagbaja.
The nation is in mourning. The president and the entire government is in mourning. He was indeed a very resourceful officer who has put it in best to fight insurgency in this country.
The vice president also met the chief of army staff, who had come to the presidential villa to brief the commander-in-chief on recent happenings in the army following the death of the chief of army staff. He says his predecessor deserves to be more celebrated, even in death.
He was a selfless leader, very passionate about Nigeria, and he led the Nigerian army very well. He was courageous. He was known to be thorough and a professional to the core. So it's a big loss to us. And all we could say at this moment is that we pray that the good Lord will find a good place for him to rest.
The newly appointed acting chief of army staff was promoted by President Bola Tinubu to the rank of Lieutenant General and charged to take up the gauntlet and lead the army against all threats to Nigeria's sovereignty and national security. Flags are flying at half-mast, an indication of a country in mourning. President Bola Tinubu, as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, is ensuring that the legacies of late Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja are sustained. Femi Akonde, TVC News.
In a historic comeback for former President Donald Trump, he made his return to the White House. President-elect Trump carved a path to victory by winning the swing states of North Carolina, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Donald Trump addressed jubilant supporters in Florida earlier yesterday, where he said, quote, "America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate," end quote. And then let's head over to some sporting stories. Club Brugge beat Aston Villa by a lone goal via a penalty in what was the Belgian side's first ever win over an English club in 14 European games, drawing 3 and losing 11 since a 1-0 win over Chelsea in the Cup Winners' Cup in 1995. Elsewhere, it finished 2-1 in Germany, where goals from Sudakov and Alexander Zubkov were enough to secure Shakhtar Donetsk their first victory of this Champions League campaign, despite Castriot Imeri opening the scoring for the Swiss side Young Boys. Of course, there were other games, so we'll talk about that tomorrow, with the biggest one being Arsenal losing at the Giuseppe Meazza San Siro to Inter Milan 1-0. And moving away from former Manchester City footballer Benjamin Mendy has won the majority of his employment tribunal claim against the club over £11.5 million in unpaid salary the club withheld from him after he was charged with sex offences. The French international and World Cup winner was later cleared of all charges. After 2 trials, employment judge Joanne Dunlop said she had concluded that Mendy is entitled to recover some, but not all of the sums claimed. following a hearing at Manchester Employment Tribunal. Ms. Dunlop said that while Mr. Mendy was not in custody, he was ready and willing to work and was prevented from doing so, which were unavoidable or involuntary on his part. The exact amount he will receive is to be calculated by Mendy and the club or determined at a future hearing if they cannot reach an agreement. Now, FIFA President Gianni Infantino has congratulated Donald Trump, who is set to become the president again after defeating Kamala Harris in the U.S. election. Infantino and Trump met several times during the latter's first presidency, which saw the United States, Canada, and Mexico awarded the 2026 World Cup in the 2018 vote. Trump will now be in office when the U.S. serves as co-host of the tournament, which will be the first 48-team World Cup. His administration will also be well on the way next summer when the U.S. hosts the newly expanded 32-team Club World Cup. Interesting times for U.S. and, of course, interesting times for the world. Now, that's it on the news this morning. We'll take a time out now. Stay with us. We will be back with What's Up and About.